final guest for Polly Week is the Liberal member for the Victorian seat of Goldstein. Chances are you've seen him do this.
So there's only one thing left to do. Ryan Patrick Bolger, will you marry me? We'll put this.
Would you please welcome Tim Wilson, everybody? Hello, Tim.
Hi, Tom. How are you?
Good, thank you. Thanks for being here. Congratulations. When's the wedding?
Family wedding in March, but we're keeping it all discreet, yes.
Why aren't I invited, though?
Because you're not, last time I checked, a member of my family.
Well, that fucking hurts.
Oh, well, that's the good thing. It's like, if you have a wedding where you invite everybody comes.
Yes.
Whereas if you say it's a family wedding, people tend to know which side, family, not family.
But then you can't disinvite the members of your family that you hate.
I love all my family.
Bullshit. The first line, everybody. There we go. Classic politics. All right, now that same-sex marriage is the law of the land, very happy for you personally. It was obviously a priority.
Good for the country.
Good for the country. Blah, blah,
Move
blah,
on.
Blah, 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 blah. I haven't got a boyfriend, fuck it. Has the
So
right...
when your wedding comes, am I going to be invited to
No.
that? Oh, well, they're quid pro quo.
We're not family. Now
We're not family in that way.
No, okay, right. Yes, we're in the community. Anyway, let's focus. Now that it is the law of the land, has the right-wing flank of the Liberal Party, the so-called Taliban, have they settled down now? That's not my words. Apparently that's what they're called. Have they been brought into line now?
Well, I've never heard anybody use that phrase, so it's not the one bandied around the party room. Look, there were people against. They accepted the result. That was, while it wasn't my first preference to have the public vote. The reality is the Australian people spoke emphatically, 62%. My electorate, 76.3%, voted yes. It's pretty hard to argue with that, and that's why people have accepted it, and they're kind of moving on and focusing on other things.
How do you hang out with someone like Kevin Andrews, for example?
Well, we're cycling buddies. No, I'm teasing. We actually don't cycle together, but
right.
Kevin's a good guy. I mean, we actually have we have different views on a fair
you do.
But that's right. That's because we're part of one big, happy, different type of family.
Church, different family.
Different
okay.
type of family.
Yada, yada, yada.
Not the type of family where it extends to everybody being invited to a wedding, but
slightly different. Okay,
Yeah.
He's not invited.
Well, no, he's not part of that
Not part of family. Okay. What other socially liberal policies can we expect from the Turnbull government in 2018? Are they going to decriminalise all drugs and have euthanasia and stuff?
Well, we actually had No, I don't think it's going to happen. We're going to decriminalise all drugs and euthanasia and stuff because euthanasia is state responsibility. But the reality is we've already actually taken some steps around access to medicinal cannabis and being able to export it internationally. And so there's no reason why there can't be more reform coming along. But I think most of the focus this year is going to be on the economy and making sure people can get into jobs
Boring.
and stuff. I know, but well, it's actually far more interesting. You know how you've got that chair and you're sitting on it?
Yes.
And it's a job?
Yes.
And it pays you?
Yes.
And then you can be able to afford to do things like pay the rent or the mortgage or something like that?
Yes.
I know it's boring, but it's actually kind of important for people.
Whatever, Dad.
I know, I realised I've become my father. It's terrible, isn't it?
That is terrible.
Although my dad's a top bloke. He was invited to the wedding, by the way.
Stop talking about your family. It was a funny joke for the start of the interview.
They're still laughing.
Malcolm Turnbull is going to face his 30th news poll in April. If he loses that, do you think he should step down as leader of the party?
Absolutely not. He should keep going, storm away, win the next election and run the country.
But you know why people ask that? Because when he challenged Tony Abbott, he said that this shows, 30 news polls in a row, shows that the Australian public have made their mind up about Tony Abbott's leadership, and therefore I'm challenging. He listed the state of the economy, some other reasons as well, but he should be seriously worried if he ends up losing 30 in a row, sure.
Well, he's already said, on balance, he probably shouldn't have said that, but the reality is the country needs stability. We've got to focus on the future, and we've actually got to deliver for Australians, and that's what we did last year. Huge number of reforms got through the parliament. There was the debate at the end around same-sex marriage. There was a lot of other stuff around welfare reform, around economic reform and tax cuts, try and get people jobs, created 1,000 new jobs a day in every day of this government. And we're going to keep doing that because we want to be able to keep being able to have people pay the taxes so that the ABC can stay on the air.
Okay.
Well, all right, some people don't necessarily want to keep the ABC on the air.
But I think you're one of those people. But,
well, I have a complicated view about the
okay,
ABC.
all right. Well, thanks for being here. Something that came out of the debate was this inquiry into religious freedom. Philip Ruddock's going to spearhead that. We're going to get the results of that in March 31st. You had the nickname of Freedom Boy for quite a while. How do you think
No, they still get called that in the Parliament. And I wear that badge of honour, with a badge of honour. It's awesome.
Great. Yay, Freedom Boy.
Yeah.
How do you think Australia does when it comes to religious freedom? What do we need to fix?
Well, I'm not convinced we need to fix a lot. There are some complications. So under, for instance, federal anti-discrimination law, you can't be discriminated against for just about any reason, but there's no protection for people on the basis of their religion. So that's something the federal parliament's looked at before. It's complicated in how it operates. Some of the rights and freedoms we have and how they're treated in some other laws maybe need to respect the fact that religious diversity is part of our multicultural society. And so I know they're looking at that as well. But we've got to be careful because as somebody who's not a fan of the Bill of Rights, you go down this path of saying, well, you've got to protect the rights of just this one section of the community. You can't do that in isolation. That takes you down a pathway towards a Bill of Rights for the whole nation. And that creates a lot of other political tensions and difference of opinion.
What do you make of the case of, say, Craig Campbell was a gay teacher in Rockingham, WA. Last year he was fired from a Baptist school because he was gay. They found out his sexuality. He mentioned he was in a long-term relationship with a man, and then he was fired. Do you think that should be allowed in Australia?
It's a really difficult one because we have institutions that are set up for a religious purpose, and they're set up for a religious purpose, and unsurprisingly, people have to conform to that faith to be participants in that. The question is, why did he go into the work environment? Was it explained to him in the first place? Should he be fired for it? My general view is that that's entirely undesirable. But if he went in knowing that his behaviour was going to limit his capacity to fulfil his job,
his identity.
No, it's his identity, but there are.
What does his sexual orientation have anything to do with his quality as a teacher at that school?
Well, it shouldn't if it has anything to do with making sure I don't know what his role was. He was a teacher, what type? Like
he was a relief teacher.
Relief teacher. Yeah. Then, as far as I'm concerned, it has nothing to do with that. But our society is a free society, Tom, and that means that people have to be free to be able to live their lives and to freely associate. And free isn't always fair, by the way. There are gay clubs in Melbourne that under state anti-discrimination laws are allowed to stop women going into them. Now, that is free and it's not necessarily fair. So you've got to recognise that freedom involves people being able to choose sometimes how they associate with people and having a proper respect. I'm not convinced, for instance, the state laws in this state, in New South Wales, are either free or fair, where it doesn't matter what school it is, as long as it's a private school, you can discriminate against somebody, for instance, on the basis of their sexual orientation with no excuse.
I mean, you're a gay man yourself. You'd be worried about LGBTQI kids at a school like that, isn't it? A religious school that fires staff for being gay.
Absolutely, I would. And there are other schools that have done that and rightly got criticised for it. And I am concerned about that. But freedom of association and human rights actually involves people being able to raise their children consistent with their values and their cultural and religious traditions. And so this is an area that should rightly be looked at by an independent inquiry and assessing whether we've got the balance in law right, because there's both state and federal laws that deal with this. Victoria has different laws to New South Wales in comparison to WA.
Now, you mentioned a priority being jobs and tax cuts is something you mentioned. You actually mentioned tax reform in your proposal to Ryan in Parliament because you're a nerd.
But at least I'm getting married.
Well,
you went there first.
Interview's over. Fuck it, that's brutal. All right, now, I'm a dumb comedian. I'm not an economist. Explain to me why Australia's company tax rate should go to 25%. It's currently at 30%. The government wants to reduce it to 25%. Yep. You've talked before about making it like sort of 20%, that kind of thing.
Yep.
When I look at the fact that we have more billionaires than ever before, there's still 1% owns more than the bottom 70% in Australia. All these issues surrounding income inequality. How is giving companies a tax cut going to make that better?
Well, in the end, companies invest money and they get to decide where they invest money all around the world. And they invest money based on where they can get a return, which means where they can build a business, create jobs and everything else. And so when you've got tax, which is something the government can control, when that's lowered, it makes it more attractive to attract investment. Australia has always been a country that has attracted capital or money from overseas. Always has been, always will be. And so we need to be as an attractive destination as possible to get money to create jobs so that people can pay taxes to fund you being on the ABC.
It's always back to my job. That's what I like. All right, we're out of time. I'm sorry. We've got to keep going because we need to connect with the youth. The coalition is to connect with the youth. We have a millennial here at Tonightly. Lauren is her name. She's standing by. She's actually joining us from inside the internet. How the heck did you get in there, Lauren?
You wouldn't get it.
Okay. All right, Tim. She seems a bit distracted. You have 30 seconds to pitch to this millennial. That's as big as their attention span is. 30 seconds to pitch to Lauren why she should vote for the coalition government. Your time starts now.
Okay, so Liberals don't really trust politicians either or centralised power. I mean, last night there was a bloke who came on this show that said that he wanted to make avocados tax deductible. I mean, that's just ridiculous. They're already tax-free. No, seriously, the future is going to be awesome. We believe in technology. It's going to solve health and environmental problems.
No.
We believe in the creation of new jobs so that you can be able to fund Tom Ballard's salary. But in the end, it comes down to the fact that we think the guy who's at parties talking about Bitcoin is a dick as well.
Time up! There you go, everybody. That was the pitch. Lauren, what did you think of that?
What? I actually didn't hear any of it because the NBN sucks.
Oh, that's too bad.